ओम निरंजनम नित्यमनंतरूपम भक्तानुकंपातीतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमिड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामि। ঠাকুরমা স্বামীজির চরণে শত কোটি প্রণাম। বরানগর রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন আশ্রম প্রাক্তন ছাত্র সংসদের পক্ষ থেকে যে ক্যারিয়ার কাউন্সেলিং ওয়েবিনারের আয়োজন করা হয়, আজকে আমরা পেয়ে গেছি সেখানে শ্রী সোমনাথ ঘোষকে। সোমনাথ ঘোষ, তিনি সিনিয়র ম্যানেজার আর্নেস্ট অ্যান্ড ইয়ং কোম্পানির মতো একটা বিখ্যাত কনসার্নে তিনি ছিলেন, এবং তিনি এর আগে এইচএসবিসি এবং জেন প্যাক্টের মতো বড় অর্গানাইজেশনে অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট ভাইস প্রেসিডেন্ট হিসেবে কাজ করেছেন। তিনি আমাদের বরানগর রামকৃষ্ণ মিশনের 1993 সালের মাধ্যমিকের প্রাক্তনী, এবং পরবর্তীতে তিনি বিকম করেছেন, আইসিএফএআই করেছেন। আজকের এই সোমনাথ যে বিষয়টা নিয়ে আলোচনা করবেন সেটা খুব ইন্টারেস্টিং। একদিকে তিনি যেমন সেলফ গ্রুমিং এর উপরটায় জোর দেবেন, তেমনি কর্পোরেট সেক্টরের যে হায়ারার্চি, সেখানে কিভাবে রিক্রুটমেন্ট প্রসেস হয়, সেখানে বিভিন্ন হাই ইম্প্যাক্ট ফিনান্স এবং ম্যানেজমেন্টের রোলগুলো কি আছে, এগুলোর উপরে সোমনাথ আলোকপাত করবেন। তো উই ওয়েলকাম সোমনাথ। ওনার অত্যন্ত ব্যস্ত শিডিউলের মধ্যে থেকে উনি আজকের এই সময় করে এসেছেন। তো আমরা আর বেশি কথা না বলে সরাসরি সোমনাথকে রিকোয়েস্ট করব আপনার বক্তব্য বা প্রেজেন্টেশনটা তুলে ধরতে।
Thank you, Devanjan, and thanks everyone for arranging this session. Hope I am audible.
হ্যাঁ,
You
শোনা
can hear
যাচ্ছে।
me. শোনা যাচ্ছে তো? ঠিক আছে. Okay. All right. So let me take just 30 seconds to share my screen. I just have prepared a very basic PPT. So while I'll be talking mostly in terms of what primarily Devanjan mentioned, তার সাথে সাথে I'll also try to showcase some of the points so that you can relate in terms of what exactly I'm going to talk about, right? Uh, so the next 30-40 minutes, the way I thought of conducting the session is in terms of discussing some of these roles that's available in the market, primarily in the corporate sector. So my entire discussion will be primarily focusing on the corporate world. But before we enter into the corporate world, I think there are certain basic things that most of us missing. So I'll try to touch base on those points in terms of how do you nurture yourself, how do you groom yourself, right? And also some of these hierarchy that primarily exist in the corporate world, so you know in terms of where exactly you're getting into. And then definitely we'll talk in more detail. Act a minute. হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ নিয়ে আসছি। আসছে কি এবার?
হ্যাঁ, আসছে।
আসছে তো?
হ্যাঁ, আর একটা রিকোয়েস্ট, যেহেতু জাস্ট একটু ইন্টারাপ্টেড হয়েছেই, সেটা হচ্ছে যে একটু যদি মাঝে মধ্যে বাংলাতেও
হ্যাঁ
কিছুটা
হ্যাঁ একদম
বলা যায়
একদম
যদি।
একদম
ঠিক।
একদম 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 একদম। So um, yeah, so Devanjan, thank you for the prelude, definitely helpful. তো আজকে যে সেশনটা আছে, primarily we'll talk about self grooming, right? In terms of what exactly you need to do from the time you're passing out till the time you're entering into the corporate world. And then I'll talk about corporate hierarchy, or what are the different recruitment channels. This is very very important. I think some of us know, some of us even may not be aware of. So সেই জিনিসটা আমি একটু touch base করব, and then we'll talk in slightly more detail in terms of some of these roles, right? The first one in terms of the self grooming, right? So I think one of the key factor here is in terms of your domain knowledge, right? Now, irrespective of the fact a student is from a commerce background or a science background, or a computer literate, right? What is important, that you should be very strong in terms of domain knowledge, because তার উপর basis করেই কিন্তু assessmentটা হয়। The other part which is primarily very very important is in terms of the communication, right? Now communication is one of the key factor when you are entering into a corporate world. A good orator, a good communicator always get a preference in terms of cracking a job. Primarily an interview যখন contact করা হয়, it's primarily span across 30 to 40 minutes, right? um, your fate will be decided in the just 10-15 minutes, 10-15 মিনিট মোটামুটি ইন্টারভিউ স্টার্ট হওয়ার পর বেসিস ইউর আনসার্স দ্য ইন্টারভিউয়ার মোরালেস ডিসাইড করে নেয় if they will kind of go further in terms of further discussion, next level of assessment, or they'll drop the candidate. So communication play a very key factor here. And when I'm saying communication, it is primarily not only verbal communication, even in terms of the written communication as well. Because when you enter into a corporate world, you have to do a lot of presentations, you have to do a lot of number crunching, you have to do a lot of mails. So communication definitely play a key role. So my request to all the students would be that start preparing yourself in terms of being a good orator, understand the language pretty well, use new stock of words, right? And how can you do that? Read a lot of books, read a lot of see a lot of channels where you can get to hear a lot of just give me 1 second, please. Just give me 1 second.
আজকের আমাদের আলোচনায় রয়েছেন শ্রী সোমনাথ ঘোষ। তার ইন্ট্রোডাকশন আমরা আগেই করেছি। সোমনাথ আমাদের অত্যন্ত ইম্পর্টেন্ট কয়েকটা জিনিসের উপর বলছেন।
Sorry. So from that perspective, sorry, I'm hope I'm audible. You can hear me.
হ্যাঁ, শোনা যাচ্ছে, শোনা
হ্যাঁ,
যাচ্ছে।
তো communication play a key role. So primarily what I am asking, and for all of you to kind of stress upon, is in terms of verbal communication, written communication, right? Along with that, there are certain softer aspect যেটা তোমাদের সবাইকে need to upskill yourself. Now definitely in the current scope of things তোমাদের এই এক্সপিরিয়েন্সটা নেই, but when you are getting into a corporate world, number management কিন্তু খুব critical. And the way the number management happens in terms of some of the tools that's kind of used. Now Excel is one of the pretty common tool, right? Now within Excel also there are advanced Excel skill. So I would suggest কে তোমরা যেটুকু সময় পাবে নিজেদের একটু এক্সেলের উপর এক্সেলটাকে নিয়ে একটু নাড়াচাড়া করো। If possible, কোনো reputed institute থেকে you also try to get yourself certified. There are other reporting tools which are primarily available in the market, which are called Tableau and also Power BI. Those are primarily some of the advanced tool that primarily exist in the market now. Definitely 10 বছর আগে যেভাবে কাজ হতো, আজকের দিনে কাজটা অনেকটা ডিফারেন্ট ওয়েতে হয়। Some of these tools available in the market are pretty advanced. Now Power BI, Tableau are those such tools which definitely would help you to enhance more knowledge in terms of data management, right? So I think that's one part of it when I'm talking about the communication. Domain knowledge we talk about, definitely there is no alternate to domain knowledge. So if I have to kind of give a bit of priority between domain knowledge and communication, of course domain knowledge would kind of take a precedence. Almost 60 to 70% depends on domain knowledge, but the remaining 30% also important, because তুমি যে knowledge টা আছে সেটাকে ঠিকমতো articulate করতে না পারো, of course you'll not go ahead further, right? So both goes hand in hand, both goes in tandem. So please work in terms of your domain knowledge as well as communication before you enter into a corporate world, because once you enter, definitely there is no look back. And don't expect people to kind of will teach you over there, because certain training definitely would be conducted, but it is also expected that when you are entering into the corporate world, you are bringing certain bit of qualities. Now some of these are what we just spoke about. Next is a very important aspect is in terms of corporate hierarchy. Now what I am kind of showing to you here in my screen, এখানে যে hierarchy there could be plus minus, তার মানেটা হলো that somewhere হয়তো কোনো একটা organization associate আছে, তার মধ্যে হয়তো একটা sub level তৈরি হয়েছে, right? But more or less this is how is the overall framework of any corporate structure. Now primarily এটাকে আমি তিনটে ওয়েতে ডিভাইড করেছি. One is the execution band, which primarily consists of associate or assistant manager, right? Then the next one is the tactical band, which is manager, assistant vice president, and some part of vice president role as well. And then the strategic band is more of the executive ranks, right, which is the senior vice president and the executive rank, who primarily the CEOs, CEOs, or the MDs, right? Now how does it happen? I mean, how does it help, right? So when somebody entered into any organization, so for example, today I just passed out with a stream. Now আমি যখন এন্টার করব, তখন most probably I'll be entering either in associate or assistant manager role, right? That's how it kind of start. And slowly and steadily I'll progress to the next level of banding, right, depending on definitely how I perform, whatever is my merit, how I am able to display my confidence to the management. Depending on that, the promotion and progression happen, and then slowly and steadily people kind of move on to the upper band. But one interesting point hoche, if you look into the corporate hierarchy structure, you'll see this is looks more like a funneling, right? It's more of a triangle, যেখানে তোমার বেসটা কিন্তু খুব wide, but when you go up, up and up, this becomes very, very narrow. Now what does it mean? It means that the majority of the population in any organizations are primarily consist of associates and assistant manager. And the more you go up and up and up, right, the funneling become very, very narrow. That means not everybody will become a CEO, everybody will not become a CEO or MD, but that should be the aspiration. Now anyone who's starting here, now this is a very common question in any interview that comes, right, that um, 3 বছর পর, 4 বছর পর, 5 বছর পর, where would you like to see? Now those are very, very tactical question, and you need to be very, very careful when you're giving the answer. Somebody says that, hey, I want to be a MD, I want to be a CEO, I want to be a CEO. Of course you can, but practically that's not possible, because you need to gain certain bit of knowledge, you need to get certain bit of experience, then only you can reach to this level, right? So just to summarize what we discussed, that this is how the corporate structure looks like, right? Where exactly you will start? You will start primarily here, right, associate or assistant manager, right? And slowly and steadily, depending on your performance, you will go up in the ladder, right? That should be your aspiration. So primarily somebody say that, I really want to be a manager, I really want to be a vice president, I really want to be a senior vice president. So this should be your uh, pathways to move forward. Okay, I'll move forward now. Now, what are the different talent acquisition channel that exist? What does it mean? This is nothing but, what are the recruitment process that exist in a corporate world. Now, for example, somebody just passed out, right, and trying to understand যে কি করে আমি corporate world এ entry নিতে পারি, right? So there are different ways. For example, there could be campus recruitment, right? There could be walk-in drive, there could be employee referral, and also there could be recruiter outreach. Now I'll hover around probably 5 minutes under each under each of these recruitment process. So campus recruitment, as the name suggests, like for example, তুমি কোন একটা reputed organization থেকে, reputed educational institute থেকে পড়াশোনা করছো, এবং তোমার কোর্স শেষ হয়ে যাওয়ার পর there is a tie up with your university, and certain other organization, they come to your university, and they said, hey, we have a recruitment of, we have a requirement of, say, 20-30 folks, right? um, uh, can you line up some interview? তো এখানে basically কি হয়, এখানে you kind of explain in terms of what you have studied. So এই this portion of the campus recruitment is kind of very, very targeted, right? For example, I'll give a quick example. So for example, somebody starting in St. Xavier's College or somebody, and some of these organizations, they are kind of very fascinated, they want people only from Goenka or St. Xavier's College. So they'll come to those college, and they will have a 1 day camp. They'll do a series of discussion, um, and they accordingly kind of select. Now একটা important point যেটা, and I'll go back to my previous discussion in terms of the communication. Now at times what happen, যদি number of candidates যদি খুব বেশি থাকে and they don't have so much of requirement, স্ক্রিনিং এর জন্য অনেক সময় কিন্তু একটা গ্রুপ ডিসকাশন বা ওই টাইপের কোনো একটা অ্যাসেসমেন্ট হয়। তো সেক্ষেত্রে কমিউনিকেশনটা কিন্তু প্লেজ আ ভাইটাল রোল, যেটা আমি অলরেডি আগে মেনশন করছিলাম। The next one is in walk in drive. Now walk in drive কখন হয়? প্রাইমারিলি কোনো একটা অর্গানাইজেশনে যখন কোনো বাল্ক রিক্রুটমেন্ট হয়। What does it mean? মানে ধরো একটা XYZ অর্গানাইজেশন আছে এবং তাদের হয়তো all of a sudden 200 প্রফেশনাল দরকার, রাইট? নাও 200 প্রফেশনাল অফকোর্স ওভারনাইট তো তুমি রিক্রুট করতে পারা যাবে না। তো what happen in that situation, they give some advertisement in different social media channel, and then they mention that on a particular day there'll be a walk-in drive to be organized for this particular organization. Now what happened in this particular situation, there would be mass recruitment that happens. So primarily if they have a requirement of 200, very easily 700 to 800 people would be lining up for this interview. Now this one is kind of very tough in the sense, because you actually have to compute you actually have to compete with 700 folks over there. So in terms of your selection of in such recruitment drive is slightly tougher as compared to any other channel of recruitment. Again, for such bulk recruitment, general practices, some bit of screening happens. So for example, there might be a written test, there might be again a group discussion, and they primarily try to do 50% of the screening done through those processes, and then remaining 50% probably through interviews. The other one is in the employee referrals. Now this one primarily happens mostly slightly on a senior roles, right? It doesn't mean that even for the fresher it doesn't happen, it happen, but mostly একটু সিনিয়র রোলে এগুলো রেফার হয়। সো ফর এক্সাম্পল আমি একটা অর্গানাইজেশনে কাজ করছি, সে ফর অ্যাজ অ্যান অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট ভাইস প্রেসিডেন্ট, অ্যান্ড আমার ইমিডিয়েটলি একটা ম্যানেজার দরকার, or একটা অ্যাসিস্ট্যান্ট ম্যানেজার দরকার, right? And I'm looking for somebody who's kind of really good in terms of knowledge, behavior, flexibility, etc. তো সেক্ষেত্রে I reach out to my people and I say that তোমাদের যদি জানাশোনা কেউ থাকে, can you please refer them, right? And then accordingly whoever is working, they reach out to their family, friends, and they see if anybody having that kind of qualification, they come and they refer them, and accordingly they are being assessed. Now these assessments are very targeted, primarily 1 or 2 rounds of interview, and they kind of get selected, right? The other one is in terms of the recruiter outreach. What does it mean? এটার মানেটা হচ্ছে there are different consultant who exist in the market, right? There are different recruitment firms, যারা এই recruitment processটা follow করে। So primarily কি হয় ইনাদের কাছে, they have a huge resume bank. So primarily you heard of naukri.com, or different mm, different other social media recruitment channels, যেগুলো থ্রুতে ক্যান্ডিডেট অ্যাপ্লাই করে, and এরা কি করে রিজিউমটাকে নিজেদের রিপোজিটরির মধ্যে রেখে দেয়, and as and when এদের কাছে কোনো রিকোয়ারমেন্ট আসে ফ্রম ডিফারেন্ট অর্গানাইজেশন, এরা রিজিউমগুলোকে স্ক্যান করে টু দ্য রেসপেক্টিভ অর্গানাইজেশনে পাঠিয়ে দেয়। জেনারেলি এই রিক্রুটমেন্ট প্রসেসটা একটু লেন্দি হয়, বিকজ there is someone in between the candidate and also the organization. Okay. So hopefully this gives a bit of insight to all of you in terms of recruitment process টা কেমন হয়, and what could be the preferred mode of recruitment process. um, এগুলো ছাড়াও there are other modes of recruitment that generally happens, but these are the primary recruitment channels that's primarily being followed in the market. Okay, hopefully that helps. Now I will move on to some of these specific roles that primarily exist in the market. And when I'm talking about it, I'll primarily talk about the banking and the insurance sector. I'll talk about the the retail sector, manufacturing, and also the fintech organization, and also the technology driven organizations, right? The first one is in terms of R2R. Okay, now অনেকে তোমাদের অনেকের কাছেই এই কনসেপ্টটা হয়তো নতুন, and maybe you are hearing for the first time what is R2R. So R2R primarily refer to record to report. Okay, now who are the targeted people who can kind of who can kind of aim for this kind of job? People with the commerce background, people who has done BBA in finance, or the accounting degrees, or of financial other financial degrees, can aim for this job. Okay, there are so these are some of these basic qualification যেটা record to report রোলের জন্য দরকার, but there are few professional degrees also that can be done, and which definitely help the chance of getting these jobs much more quicker. Right now, one of those degree is definitely ACCA, which is Association of Chartered Certified Account, right, which is based out of UK, and this is one of the globally accredited degree, and equivalent to chartered accountant, the CA degree that we have in India. You can also pursue study on CMA, I'm hoping that in the previous ডিসকাশন যেগুলো হয়েছে তোমাদের কিছুটা আইডিয়া আছে সিএম এর উপরে। তো সিএমএ স্ট্যান্ডস ফর সার্টিফাইড ম্যানেজমেন্ট অ্যাকাউন্টেন্ট, অ্যান্ড এগুলোর জেনারেলি একটা রিজিনাল বডি থাকে। ফর এক্সাম্পল সিএমএ ইন্ডিয়া, সিএমএ অস্ট্রেলিয়া, but the most popular one and the accepted one is the US CMA, right? And that's kind of powered by IMA, which is Institute of Management Accountant. Now এই কাজগুলো what it aims at, primarily advanced accounting, financial accounting, accounting standard, corporate finance, law, tax, primarily এইগুলোর উপর খুব ফোকাস থাকে, right? Now in a very simplistic way, and definitely probably for your for all of your ease of understanding, আমি হয়তো একটু সিম্পল করে বোঝানোর চেষ্টা করছি, but it is slightly more complex. But just for our understanding, just for our discussion, now R2R is primarily a fundamental financial and accounting process, right? Now if you think of a complete life cycle of a financial transaction, সো প্রাইমারিলি কি হয়, যদি একটা ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল ট্রানজাকশন হয় সেটাকে রেকর্ড করতে হয় অ্যাকাউন্টিং সিস্টেমে, right? And when, so that's the starting point, and then it goes through a series of other activities, and then it ends with the financial reporting. Now when I'm saying financial reporting, primarily the balance sheet at the income statement. So people who are pursuing BCom or BBA, fairly saying that probably you understand the concept of balance sheet or the income statement. Now, the objective of R2R is to provide more strategic and high level overview of the company's financial health. So definitely people working here play a very, very critical role, right? Now, if I have to again further drill it down in terms of key activity হয় R2R role, R2R primarily involve journal entry. So primarily you have to prepare the journal entry, and that's how your domain knowledge plays a very, very key role. এটা ছাড়াও general ledger management. So primarily, if you're a commerce student, you definitely understand general ledger management is one of the key activity in any finance and accounting process. Now while doing this, এগুলো কিন্তু guided by US GAAP. So US GAAP is primarily general accepted accounting principles. Then also we have IFRS, which is International Financial Accounting Standard. So these are some of these guidelines that has to be strictly followed while working in R2R process. এটা ছাড়াও এই R2R process এর মধ্যে reconciliation ও involved থাকে। When I'm saying reconciliation, that primarily means bank reconciliation, that also means intercompany reconciliations, right? So which are slightly more complex. And at last, what happens? It is primarily the periodic end closure, where the financial reporting kind of happen to the stakeholders. And when I'm saying the stakeholders primarily means the regulatory body or the shareholders, right? And there can be internal reporting as well. So R2R is kind of very, very critical from the standpoint of the critical activities that kind of start with the preparation of the journal entry, managing the general ledger, uh, and it follows through reconciliation, and then periodic closure as well. Moving on to which is called P2P. Okay, so P2P is again known as procure to pay. Now this is very important in a supply chain management kind of a role, right? Now what kind of qualification required? Qualification এখানে যদি minimum কিছু qualification এর কথা বলতে হয়, এটা হবে bachelor's degree, right? In it primarily in the finance, accounting or commerce. You can also have, you can also pursue in business administration, bachelor's in business administration, BBA, or some specific discipline আছে supply chain management. So those are some of the basic qualification that is required. But if you want to do a higher study, to pursue a P2P role, তো MBA is definitely one of the preferred one. এছাড়াও কিছু supply management এর role আছে, which are primarily for the senior, more senior role. So I'm kind of assuming that some of you would be kind of jumping into the industry first time. So probably for you to start with, you'll start with maybe in a associate or a AM kind of a role, right? There are certain certification that happens in P2P role. একটা হচ্ছে certified what was that, I think CPSM, so certified professional in supply management, right? তো এগুলো generally globally accepted qualification, and এগুলো যদি করো definitely তোমাদের আরো in depth knowledge থাকবে, and it would also help you to get these jobs much more easily. Now, quickly talk about ke P2P বা supply management এর কাজটা কি। It actually end-to-end process in terms of how business refill their stock, right? And how do they pay back to the vendor. So in a very simplistic way, if I have to explain, then এটা start হয়, this process starts when a department realize that it needs to refill its supply. Now the supply can be anything. Now for example, for a food giant, right? It could be the raw materials, it could be the raw gains, right? If for a uh, electronic led business, it could be laptop, any electronic gadgets, right? And so on and so forth. Now the first step is in terms of identification. So এখানে কি হয়, first time the companies try to identify that what are the product and the services that kind of missing and need a quick refill, right? Once that is done, then the next step হচ্ছে requisition তৈরি করা। requisition primarily there is a something called PO, purchase order, সেটা vendor এর কাছে place করা হয়। once it goes to the vendors, the vendor will review everything, and then will ships the goods and and other details which the supplier kind of requested for. So সেটাকে place করা হবে। And then the next step is in terms of the invoice. So once the goods and services kind of delivered, definitely there will be an invoice which will be shared, and এই ইনভয়েসটা তখন আসবে অ্যাকাউন্টস পেয়েবল টিমের কাছে। And again this accounts payable team is primarily linked to R2R process, যেটা আমি মাত্র ডিসকাস করলাম। So they, so this team will primarily look into the different aspects of the invoice, right, in terms of quantity, in terms of values, in terms of other nitty gritty, because the chances of having fraud in the entire process is very very high. So they primarily do a lot of compliance check, a lot of security check, and then when they are satisfied, হ্যাঁ everything is in place, সবকিছু ঠিকঠাক আছে, তখন ফাইন্যান্স ডিপার্টমেন্টকে একটা গো হেড দেয়, and ফাইন্যান্স ডিপার্টমেন্ট পেমেন্ট এক্সিকিউশন করে, রাইট? বাট ইট ইজ কোয়াইট ইন্টারেস্টিং। প্রবাবলি আমি একটু সিম্পলিস্টিক ওয়েতে বোঝানোর চেষ্টা করছি। বাট if I look into the end-to-end process, it is quite interesting. Whoever working in procure to pay currently in the industry, they gain immense knowledge into this particular process of delivering end-to-end customer service. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is the project management, right? This is kind of one of my favorite topic to talk about, right? So I'll give you one example before I get into more details about project management. Now some of you, it's a new concept, তা আমি একটু explain করার চেষ্টা করি in terms of project managementটা কি. So all of you understand, right? যে আমাদের যে ডেটা ওয়্যারহাউস আজকের দিনে যে কোনো কাজ করা হয় তার একটা বিশাল বড় পোর্শন ইজ ইন টার্মস অফ দ্য ডেটা ম্যানেজমেন্ট। তার থেকেও বড় কথা হলো এই ডেটাটাকে কোথায় স্টোর করা হবে, right? So you know that there is a, Google Cloud platform, right? যেখানে data store করা হয়, there are Azure, and there are different organization has different data warehouse. Now example একটা হচ্ছে, for example there is a organization called XYZ, right? তাদের ডেটাটা রয়েছে টেরা ডেটা বলে একটা, and this really exists, টেরা ডেটা বলে একটা সিস্টেমের মধ্যে, right? টেরা ডেটা is also an organization. Now Teradata may be a slightly outdated, and maybe it's not very cost effective, because every organization আজকের দিনে they try to do the cost effective utilization of their budget, right? So they will always look for what is more cost effective, what is more advanced, right? And then for XYZ organization, এটা এগ্রি করলো that এদের যে data, current যে data store mechanism আছে, that is very very costly. They need to change it to Google Cloud platform, which is easy to use, which is more advanced technology, and definitely it's cost effective. So they need to move the entire set of data from the current data warehouse, which is Teradata, to Google Cloud platform. Now to do this entire transition, now for example a big organizations where lakhs and lakhs of people are working, and then millions and billions of data kind of stored, right? It is not easy for them to just overnight move the data. There is a process, right? Because যদি কোনো একটা ফেজে ডেটাটা ব্রেকডাউন হয়ে যায়, then it's going to create a huge turmoil for the organization. So to manage this entire transition, they need a project management team, যারা পুরো বিষয়টা এন্ড টু এন্ড রিভিউ করবে, যারা ঠিক করবে ওকে what is the timeline, right? Who all are different teams who are working on it, what is their technical expertise, do we have enough support, right? Do we have the technical expertise, right? What are the dependencies, what are the risk, what are the challenges? So project management team, they primarily hold the entire nerve of this particular change, right? So they play a very very critical role, যেখানে এরা end to end সবকিছু রিভিউ করে and ensure করে that this particular change go through in a very very scientific way, and at the end of the day it's kind of successful. Hopefully I'm able to explain the concept. But having said that, if I have to give another example, for example there are two organizations who are merging in the current situation. তোমরা যদি খবরের কাগজ পড়ো, তোমরা যদি সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া দেখো, it is very very common nowadays ki different organization they are merging together, right? Now the merger is also a huge process, কেননা তোমরা যখন দুটো বড় organization merge করছে, their way of working, their systems, their people, their vision, their strategy, all are different. But যখন দুটো organization merge করছে, they have to kind of visualize, they have to kind of have a vision of building one big organization, right? So এই merger গুলো যখন হয়, then also project management team play a critical role. Now in a very short and simplistic way, whenever there is a change that happens in any organization, this PMO roles comes in play. Hopefully, that gives a bit of idea, and I could kind of help you to understand what exactly is a project management rule all about. Now, in terms of the qualification, you need to have a bachelor's degree in business administration. You need to have project management degree. If you understand the finance, commerce, definitely that also helps. I have seen a lot of BE, who kind of got into the PMO role as well. Now, in terms of professional qualification, মার্কেটে অনেক অর্গানাইজেশন আছে যারা পিএমও রোল করায়। সো কমন রোল, কমন পার্সোনাল, কমন প্রফেশনাল qualifications are PMP, Prince 2, right? These are primarily foundation and practitioner roles. These also helps you to understand some of these common tools like Jira, Asana. এগুলো generally tools which are used in project management role. Now, within the project management role also, there is an element of Six Sigma. So primarily তোমরা যদি কেউ statistics নিয়ে পড়াশোনা করো, তোমাদের idea থাকবে that what is Six Sigma. Now, project management রোলে যারা কাজ করে তারা primarily তাদের মধ্যে অনেকেই green belt or black belt হয়, those are certification. Generally বাইরে থেকেও করা যায়, অথবা অনেক সময় within organization also framework থাকে, and organization depending on people's aspiration, merit, কিন্তু certification করিয়ে দেয়. These are costly. So if you really want to pursue your career in the field of project management, and you really love managing change or data, or numbers or the maths, right? You can go for it, and there are different organizations who primarily help you to get certified. So definitely, if you have a certification, that definitely gives you a edge in terms of getting a role in project management. Okay, hopefully that gives some bit of idea. I'll move on to my next slide, which is anti-money laundering and KYC, right? So this is pretty interesting. So primarily in the banking world, in the and also the financial world, this is very very important. Now what happened? uh, and primarily যে কোনো ব্যাংকেই এই AML ফাংশনটা কিন্তু থাকে। So this is more of a compliance role. So what happen কে um, there is always a dirty money যেটা কিন্তু সিস্টেমের মধ্যে ঢোকার চেষ্টা করে, right? Technically তিনটে স্টেপস আছে অ্যান্টি মানি লন্ডারিং এর। ওয়ান ইজ প্লেসমেন্ট, দ্য সেকেন্ড ইজ লেয়ারিং, অ্যান্ড থার্ড ইজ ইন্টিগ্রেশন। নাও এটার মানেটা কি? So, এটার মানেটা এটাই হচ্ছে, প্লেসমেন্ট ইজ যেখানে ব্যাড অ্যাক্টার্স ওরা ওরা কি করে, they try to put money into the system, right? Maybe the source of the money is not very legal, and it's kind of dirty. They try to whitewash the money, so they infuse that money into the system. That's called placement. And then the next step is called layering. Layering মানে হচ্ছে এতগুলো ট্রানজাকশন করে ওই সিস্টেম, ওই মানিটা সিস্টেমের, ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল সিস্টেমের মধ্যে ঢোকার পর, that the source of the transactions kind of get dismissed, right? That's called layering. Now when the source of the transaction get dismissed or kind of untraceable, I think that's the more right word, then it's called integration. Integration means the dirty money getting integrated into the financial system, right? And of course যদি dirty money become white money, then it definitely help the bad actors. So primarily terrorist financing or that kind of illegal activities are kind of being protected through AML compliance. Now this is very 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 critical. তো যদি তোমাদের মধ্যে কারোর এই মাইন্ডসেট থাকে in terms of doing a lot of research, understanding, or doing a deep drive in terms of the compliance system, right? Then of course this is one of the area some of you can definitely venture out, right? Now this AML is a highly regulated area. So there's something called FATF, which is called Financial Action Task Force. So what is FATF? So primarily FATF help to combat money laundering and terrorist financing, right? And this primarily exist across the globe. Now, for example, for UK, uh, যে রেগুলেটরি অথরিটি আছে সেটাকে আমরা বলি এফসিএ, হুইচ ইজ ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল কন্ট্যাক্ট অথরিটি, রাইট? দেন ইন ইউএস এটা হচ্ছে এসিসি, হুইচ ইজ সিকিউরিটি এক্সচেঞ্জ কমিশন, রাইট? দেন অস্ট্রেলিয়াতে ইটস কল অস্ট্রাক, অ্যান্ড ফর ইন্ডিয়াতে ইট ইজ হাইলি রেগুলেটেড বাই আরবিআই অ্যান্ড সেবি, right? So in terms of how you can get yourself literate in AML, it is it is primarily the finance degree, or even if you even if you have pursued your career in the space of law or criminal justice, you can also be qualified. In fact, people who are pursuing law or criminal justice, they will have a edge in terms of pursuing the AML career, right? Also, this AML work have certain aspects. It's called due diligence. It's called advanced enhanced due diligence. It also has an aspect of fraud. Now in the banking world, এটা কিন্তু খুব common that fraud detection is one of the key challenging area. So this AML কিন্তু ওইখানেও একটা খুব ভালো ইনসাইট দেয় in terms of কিভাবে ফ্রড ডিটেকশন করা যেতে পারে, কিভাবে রিসার্চ করা যেতে পারে, অ্যান্ড দেন কিভাবে ডিফারেন্ট টাইপের কন্ট্রোলস প্লেস করা যেতে পারে। এটা ছাড়াও ট্রানজাকশন মনিটরিং হয়, পেমেন্ট স্ক্রিনিং হয়। সো জাস্ট আ কুইক এক্সাম্পল, সো ফর এক্সাম্পল ট্রানজাকশন মনিটরিং এ কি হয়, ফর এক্সাম্পল সামবডি from a sanctioned country, say for example someone is from Sudan, right? And the person is primarily from India, right? But the person has gone to Sudan, ওখানে একটা ট্রানজাকশন করেছে। এখনকার আমাদের সিস্টেমগুলো এতটাই অ্যাডভান্স যে একটা ওখানে কিন্তু সিস্টেমে একটা ট্রিগার চলে আসে, and then immediately you understand that something is not wrong. So তোমাদের যদি ওই ধরনের মাইন্ডসেট থাকে, then will kind of invest more time in terms of research, understanding the financial system, understanding how finance system works, right? What are the different challenges within the financial system? So definitely this is one of the area তোমরা কিন্তু venture out করতে পারো। And the good point is যত ব্যাংকিং ইন্ডাস্ট্রি ব্যাংক উইদিন দ্য ব্যাংকিং ইন্ডাস্ট্রি যত ব্যাংকস আছে, বি ইট দ্য ডোমেস্টিক ব্যাংক অর ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ব্যাংক, সবার কিন্তু এই ফাংশনটা থাকবেই। সো ডেফিনেটলি দের ইজ এ হিউজ ডিমান্ড ইন দ্য মার্কেট। If you want to kind of explore your career in the field of anti money laundering AML, definitely you can explore. And then definitely in terms of the professional degree, it is called CAMS, which is certified anti money laundering specialist. So these are certain courses বাইরে different organization offer করে। Generally it cost around 50,000 to 1 lakhs. There is something called ICA as well. But if you got inside an organization and then you want to pursue in the field of AML, many organization আজকের দিনে কিন্তু sponsor করে to get some of this certification. Okay. The next structure is primarily the modern banking architecture. So primarily what I'm saying that আজকের দিনে একটা ব্যাংকিং এ যদি তুমি তোমরা যদি aim করো, if you have aspiration to work in the banking, so primarily there are different areas. So you have investment banking, you have retail banking, you have corporate banking, even the fintech organization. Now of course investment banking is primarily where you will have if you understand the financial instruments, right, the swap derivative কিভাবে কাজ হয়, then definitely this is an area where তোমরা pursue করতে পারো investment banking. Retail banking primarily the day to day functioning যেটা আমরা করি. Corporate banking is more of dealing with high value transactions and more of the corporate part, right? Now এগুলো ছাড়াও banking ছাড়াও one of the area which is kind of pretty common, and it is not part of my PPT, which is in terms of the AI, the AI market. So primarily uh, আমার সাজেশন তোমাদের কাছে থাকবে যে তোমরা যাই করো, প্লিজ ট্রাই টু বি এআই লিটারেট। আজকের দিনে যে কোনো অর্গানাইজেশনে তোমরা যদি যাও, এআই লিটারেসি কাইন্ড অফ টেকিং আ প্রেসিডেন্স ওভার এনিথিং অ্যান্ড এভরিথিং। রাইট? তোমাদের যদি ন্যাকিং থাকে যে তোমরা কোডিং করতে চাও, ডেফিনিটলি ইউ ক্যান লার্ন Python and some of these large language model, right? But if you are not so comfortable যদি কোডিং বা Python বা LLM এর উপর যদি না থাকে, বাট স্টিল ইউ ওয়ান্ট টু নো কে এআই এর উপর কি কোর্স করবে, দেখবে দেয়ার ইউ ক্যান কাইন্ড অফ ওয়ার্ক অন জেনারেটিভ AI, agentic AI, and prompt engineering. So conceptually you should be very very clear in terms of how AI works, what are the pros and cons of using AI, what are the different prompt engineering that you can kind of work now. বাড়িতে তোমরা practice করতে পারো, there are different platform on the AI that exists in the market. So Gemini, Meta, I think আছে কিছু AI platform, right? So and I'm sure তোমরা already করছো, যে তোমাদের যদি কোনো কোর্সের ব্যাপারে আরো ডিটেলস জানতে ইচ্ছা করে বা আরো ইন ডেপথ নলেজ জানতে ইচ্ছা করে, আম তোমরা এআই কে ইউজ করতে পারো। And prompt engineering play a very very critical part over there, right? If you know what is the right prompt to give, you'll definitely get the right output. Right, so that's primarily I wanted to cover. Now on a high level, there could be three different paths. One is the commerce path, management path, and the legal and quantitative path. Commerce path, of course, আমরা কথা বললাম R2R, P2P, and some of these forensic accounting. Management path is primarily the project management, right? And the legal path is primarily more of AML or the compliance kind of a role. These are some of these qualification যেটা আমরা কথা বললাম, CFA, PMP or CAMS. And in terms of the standard career trajectory, so primarily এই চার্টটা আমি এখানে এনেছি to give you guys an overview that where do you start. So you start primarily here as associate or training, যেটা আমি আমার প্রথম সাইটে already discuss করেছি. Then you move to a senior associate or specialist kind of a role, and then from here it's a leadership role, and then of course you go ahead and you kind of reach to more of a strategic management role. Okay, so I think that's pretty much that I have to offer today. So I don't know if we have live audience, but happy to take any questions if we have. Devanjan?
আহ, না, বেসিক্যালি এই মুহূর্তে আমরা লাইভ অডিয়েন্সের এরা নেই, এটা পরবর্তীতে ওনারা শুনে বলবেন হয়তো, বা কিছু কোয়ারি থাকলে আমরা দেবো। এমনিতে খুব এক্সস্টিভ ডিসকাশনটা অলরেডি হয়েছে। তো হোপফুলি এটা আমাদের যারা শুনছে আমাদের, বা এখন শুনছে বা পরবর্তীতে শুনবে, তাদের কাজে খুবই কাজে লাগবে। মূলত আমাদের মনে হলো যেটা, যে কমার্স ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ড থেকে যারা প্রিপেয়ার করছে কর্পোরেট সেক্টরে এর জন্য, তাদের ক্ষেত্রে এটা হয়তো বেশি কাজে লাগবে। ইন জেনারেল কর্পোরেট সেক্টরের ওভারভিউর জন্য এটা এইরকম ধরনের সেশনটা আমরা আগে করতে পারিনি, যেটা তার গ্রুমিং এর পার্টটাও খুব সুন্দরভাবে কভার্ড হয়েছে। তো আহ, আমরা আমরা ডিসকাশনটা এখানেই শেষ করব, কারণ আমাদের টাইম অলমোস্ট ওভার। আর যদি আমাদের অন্য কোনো মহারাজরা বা টিচাররা যদি শুনে থাকেন বা পরবর্তীতে শুনেন, তাদেরও আমরা যথাযোগ্য শ্রদ্ধা সম্ভাষণ জানাই। আর আমাদের যে সমস্ত স্টুডেন্টস ভাইরা এটা শুনবে, বা ইন জেনারেলও যদি কেউ কোনো ক্যারিয়ার অ্যাসপিরেন্ট এটা নিয়ে শুনতে চান, তাহলে তাদের আশা করি যে এটা খুব ডিটেলসে ডিসকাশনটা সোমনাথ করেছেন, সেটা কাজে লাগবে। তো সোমনাথ, এনি ফিউ ওয়ার্ডস টু ফাইনালাইজ, যদি কিছু বলতে চাও, তারপরে আমি শেষ করবো।
No, আমি I think pretty much covered. আমার ২-৩টে কি পয়েন্ট আছে। একটা হচ্ছে always try to upskill yourself, কারণ যেভাবে আমাদের ইন্ডাস্ট্রিটা প্রোগ্রেস করছে, এভরি সিঙ্গেল ডে there's something of the new coming in. তো একটু সোশ্যাল মিডিয়াতে নজর রাখো ইন টার্মস অফ কি কি নিউ টেকনোলজি গুলো আসছে, কিভাবে তোমরা আরো বেশি ওয়েল কনভার্সেন্ট হতে পারো ওই টেকনোলজি গুলোতে। And of course read a lot. I would suggest read a lot. Definitely there is no alternate to the reading, right? It not only helps to enhance your knowledge, but also it also helps to kind of improve your communication, right? But yeah, I think I wanted to wish all of you all the best. We are here. আর যদি কোনো সময় কোনো ভাবে আরো কিছু সেশন করতে পারি, of course I'll be happy to be part of it. But thank you, Devanjan. Thanks for arranging this.
থ্যাংক ইউ সোমনাথ, বিজি শিডিউলের মধ্যে থেকে আসার জন্য। আর এটা সোমনাথ যেটা আলোচনা করলেন, এটা আমাদের বড়নগর রামকৃষ্ণ মিশন প্রাক্তন ছাত্র সংসদের ইউটিউব চ্যানেলে রাখা থাকবে। তো আপনারা যদি কেউ পরবর্তীতে এটা শুনতে চান, শুনতে পারবেন। সকলকে ধন্যবাদ। শুভরাত্রি। আমরা আজকের সেশনটা এখানেই শেষ করছি। পরবর্তীতে আবারও হয়তো আমরা সোমনাথকে কখনো আনবো। থ্যাংক
থ্যাংক
ইউ।
ইউ। থ্যাংকস।